a devoted fan, and a plugged-in reporter. There is no better way to talk about hoops than that. Mia O'Brien and Mitch Northam have you covered for the W, the NCAA, Unrivaled, and anything else that involves a ball and a backboard. This is the Women's Basketball Podcast.
New season, fresh look. Welcome into the Women's Basketball Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things women's hoops. Not only can you find us on the OG Triangle Media, but we want to give a shout-out to our friends at auditoryfx.com, making your podcast sound bigger and even more professional, just like ours. All the audio tools you need to take your show to the next level. And, with the holidays around the corner, Mitch Northam, it's the perfect gift for yourself or the podcaster in your life, with packages starting as low as $19.99. He is Mitchell Northam of SB Nation. I am massive women's basketball fan, Mia O'Brien, also reporter at large as well here in Jacksonville, FLA. If this is the first time you're hanging out with us here at the Women's Basketball Podcast, be sure to like and subscribe to the OG Triangle Media and Women's Basketball Podcast feeds, because we have a whole heck of a lot going as college hoop season truly heats up. Mitch Northam, how are we feeling after you saw two of the early games of the year candidates in the Triangle?
Yeah, we're back. I think I've already seen, let me count, 1, 2, 3, 4. I've seen 5 games in person already. And many more to come later this week. And yeah, it's been awesome to be back and seeing hoops live in person. I wrote in my column today at SB Nation about my AP Top 25 pull ballot. Like, we have real games to reflect on and hard data to look at. Like, we don't have to predict and project and all that stuff. Like, we have some tangible things we can kind of grasp onto and talk about now, which is awesome. It's November. Hoops is here. Yeah.
You are an AP voter on the women's side. I am on the men's side, in addition to my women's basketball coverage. And nothing says the first week of November, Mitch, like having a bunch of angry Purdue fans in my mentions. That's when we know that college hoop season is truly here. And that's why this week's starting 5 is going to be a rundown of the 5 best games that we saw in the first full week of the women's college basketball season. Don't worry, WNBA fans. Don't worry, Unrivaled fans. We're going to get to you and the many storylines that abound, but we're going to begin in the college ranks. And certainly, Mitch, like I alluded to, you were on hand for 2 games that I think were probably number 1 and number 2, with all due respect to the game up in your native Annapolis, Maryland, between UConn and Louisville, which the final score was closer than it probably actually indicated.
Yeah.
Point is, you were on site as our friend, or at least your friend, Wes Moore, and the NC State Wolfpack took part in 2 of the better games that we saw through 7 days of the basketball calendar year. So start us with the second of the 2, but the one that probably turned more heads.
Yeah, the second one and by the way, NC State, kudos to them and Wes Moore. NC State was the only AP Top 25 preseason team who played 2 other ranked teams.
Amen.
In the first week of the season. So shout
as
out
an
to
AP
Wes.
voter, I am going to co-sign on that, Mitch, because if you want a surefire way, whether you win or lose, for us to care about you, schedule actual competition week 1. Then I actually can have some proof of concept and can actually consider that in my ballot casting.
Definitely. Yeah. So good on NC State for scheduling those tough games. The first one that we'll talk about happened Sunday down in Charlotte at the Ally tip-off. This was USC, NC State. USC pulls out a very tight 1-point win, 69-68, I believe was the final score down in Charlotte. I think for me, this game said more about USC than NC State. The big thing, I think one of our big questions coming into the season was like, what is USC going to look like without Juju Watkins, right? And my takeaway from this game was that they're going to be fine. And I thought that coming into the season, just looking at the roster, but now actually seeing it, like Jazzy Davidson is a prime time player. Like freshman, I think like she's somebody who should be on people's radar as somebody who can win that Tamika Catchings National Freshman of the Year award. She really turned it on in the second half yesterday, scored 18 of her 21 points in the second half, scored the game-winning bucket. And yeah, I think USC is going to be just fine. They also have, in addition to not having Juju Watkins this year, I think people also kind of forget, like, they did send their entire front court to the WNBA, in Kiki Iriafen and Rhea Marshall. They lost two really good guards to the transfer portal in Avery Howe and Kaylee Heckel, who are now at Washington and UConn. But they reloaded. So you have Jazzy Davidson. London Jones comes over from UCLA. She really, drove the bus for them in the first half. 14 points on 4 of 4 shooting.
Can I interject real quick here, Mitch Northam? Can I take the listeners behind the curtain?
Sure.
I co-sign as well to the Jazzy point, because I think she's going to come up a little bit later in our stock report. I do think, as of this writing, through 7 days of the women's basketball season, she is the front runner for freshman of the year. Now, with that said, please let the viewers know, what tweet did you send close to halftime of this game while you were courtside, while you were on press row, that maybe some folks dug up later and had questions about?
Yeah, well, it's funny. At halftime, I said, it kind of feels like USC is still trying to figure out who its bus driver is without Juju Watkins. And it seems like two young players want to be that, Jazzy Davidson and Kennedy Smith, but the Trojans have been at their most successful today with London Jones running things, which was true in the first half. Then in the second half was when Jazzy Davidson and Kennedy Smith is also like one of these really highly touted recruits, was on the team last year as a freshman, now in a bigger role as a sophomore. Both of them really turned it on in the second half. And so, like, when the game ended, I quote tweeted that, and I was like, LOL, JK, Jazzy Davidson is the bus driver. But Kennedy Smith, also really, really good, I think was kind of their anchor on defense. Picked off the pass that NC State had inbounded with a few seconds to play to kind of seal the victory there. So for me, I think that this win said more about USC than it did NC State. I think NC State mostly, I think they kind of have like their identity and like who their go-to players are figured out. It's just more of consistency, right? Like, they need to tighten some things up on defense. They need to tighten up, making layups, which, we think is kind of a basic thing, but it is something that NC State needs to get better at. And they need to figure out how to get the ball to toe to trigger more. She's every bit of 6'6", and like, they had a size advantage, on Sunday against USC, and just didn't get her the ball enough. I think that Zoe Brooks and Camille Pierre combined for 30-something shots, and toe to trigger had like 8 field goal attempts. So you got to get her the ball more. Westmore acknowledged as much, in the post-game press conference. But it's a huge one for USC. I think it is. I wrote this at SB Nation. You can go read my story about USC there. I think it is kind of proof of concept for they can still be a contender without Juju Watkins. Like, Lindsey Gottlieb did enough with this roster where they should still be up to par. Now they have another big test coming up. They're going to play South Carolina this coming Saturday. The last thing that I will add about the Ally tip-off, this is the third year in a row that we've had the Ally tip-off in Charlotte. It's going to keep going. We are going to have next year a doubleheader of South Carolina versus North Carolina and NC State versus Kentucky. In 2027, we're going to have South Carolina UConn as the Ally tip-off. So we have some big games coming. If I could offer some advice to the Charlotte Sports Foundation people, maybe do not schedule this game at the same exact time that the Carolina Panthers are playing. So last year, the Ally tip-off had South Carolina and NC State, and then we had a not quite as good matchup, but it was a doubleheader. We had Iowa, Virginia Tech. The first year, that was a big-time matchup, right? You had Caitlin Clark, Elizabeth Kitley, Georgia Amore. That was the first year the Ally tip-off. Great game. Regardless, last year, South Carolina, NC State, Iowa, Virginia Tech, the South Carolina-NC State game reset the record for the highest attended regular season basketball game in the state of North Carolina. There was over 15,000 people there. It was awesome. Yesterday, there was a little over 5,000 people there. So yeah, that would be my advice, because it's not like this wasn't a good game, But I think you had, for the people in Charlotte, you had some conflict of like, the Panthers had been playing well. Like people were going to go to the Panthers game. And if you had NC State fans or whoever coming in from out of town, they were maybe looking at things like, oh man, I'm going to run into Panthers traffic. And, like I would just, maybe try to get some that information from the Panthers next year about when home games are, and maybe stray away from having a game played at the same time.
Because when does the Ally tip off? I mean, are the dates already set for next year?
They've announced the matchups. I don't think they've formally announced the actual dates.
Okay, because we'll know the NFL calendar come May, and that may be a little bit too short of a window for the folks at Ally, but just throwing it out there. So.
I think this past one was announced in May.
So there we go.
But maybe that's some of the strategy is like they've set the matchups and maybe there's some wiggle room in figuring out when actually to play the games. The first year of the Ally tip-off, Virginia Tech, Iowa, that big Caitlin Clark, Elizabeth Gitley, Georgia Amor game, that was on like a Thursday night, and there was 13,000 people there. So, if you have to pivot to playing this game on a weeknight or a Friday night or a Saturday afternoon, so you're not in conflict with the Panthers, do that. Because it's a bad idea to play at the same time as the Panthers.
And especially because, and we're going to get to game number 2 in this week's starting 5 this way, but I will take a quick side tangent back to Jazzy Henderson and company. But first, there were not a lot of great men's or women's basketball games on this past Friday night. And while there were certainly a couple of good college games, I do think that that's a prime window because people are going to be locked in on college football on Saturday, the NFL on Sunday, for college basketball to ease into its season, but also remind people, hey, we're still here. We're still here. Tuesdays or Wednesdays would also accept that. Thursdays, you go up against Thursday Night Football. But I do think, to your point, Mitch, there's absolutely merit. And there's also merit in trying to do your best to, yes, have marquee brands, but East Coast brands where for a fact the fan base will travel. This is to not knock USC. But the reality is that Caitlin Clark was bigger than Iowa, and you assured yourself, even in the early onset of her senior year, you would have butts in the seats because of who she was. It doesn't matter. Sorry, South Carolina fans. It doesn't matter who the name on the back of the jersey is. If South Carolina's there, we know that Gamecock fans are going to show up. And you can't get Dawn Staley and company every year, but I do think there's some other brands on the East Coast, whether that's a UConn, whether that's Tennessee, whether that is... not Miami. Sorry, Miami. Love you guys.
And last year, even, NC State fans, I think, traveled more to that matchup last year. Like NC State fans do travel pretty well if it's within relative distance. Like I think that building last year was probably 60-40 South Carolina State. But I think the organizers of this year's Ally tip-off are probably counting on Juju Watkins being healthy, because they started negotiating the contract for this game before her injury.
True.
That's
very true. That's very, very true.
When I first started hearing rumblings of this matchup. So I think they were counting on that, but you just do yourself some favors and don't go up against the NFL game in town.
We don't have a beef of the week this week because the college basketball season is in its earnest, but we're going to consider that a beef of the week, not just for Mitch, but also for producer Dimitri, who was with his son trying to leave the Panthers game and said it took an hour and 40 minutes. So that is our beef of the week. Charlotte traffic, you have been warned. I would also like to note, in speaking of beef and great content, I don't want to put this evil on Lindsay Gottlieb, but... Brian Windhorst meme. Mitch, get those fingers ready. Jazzy Henderson, freshman phenom. Sorry, what's that?
Davidson.
I keep saying Henderson. I don't know why. Davidson. Jazzy Davidson, freshman phenom. Hannah Hidalgo, freshman phenom. Olivia Miles was out for the season with injury in her freshman year. Juju Watkins out for the season in Jazzy's freshman year. What happened when they had to share a backcourt, Mitch? I know that Juju is positionless, but
I think they'll be okay. That's
2 bus drivers, though. I just want to bring this conversation full circle.
USC is also bringing in the number 1 recruit in the country next year with Sanaya Hall. So it's she just keeps stacking them up. So she's going to kind of have to, I don't know, maybe get some advice from Gino and Dawn Staley about, hey, how do I deal with multiple number 1 recruits on one roster?
Well, Dawn's giving out a lot of advice these days, evidently, when it comes to scheduling and whatever she had to tell Corey Close, speaking of Southern California. Maybe we'll get to that. That probably should have been beef of the week. Let's get to number 2 in this week's starting 5. We needed to lead with that game, though, which was such a nail biter, and Mitch was in the house for it. Like I said, Friday night, Kevin and I are locked in on the couch. We were really excited to dedicate TV number 2 to women's basketball. Excited at Richmond, one of our mid-major teams to watch here on the Women's Basketball Podcast, heading to the Moody Center to face the Longhorns. And big fart noise, Mitch.
Yeah.
Not what you want.
No.
Final score, Texas, number 4, Texas, 85. The number 24, Richmond Spiders, 56. Ultimately, yes, on paper, we should have known in terms of the size differential that unless Richmond was truly able to light it up beyond the arc and was able to make shots at a clip that could keep pace with the size inside for Texas, that this was going to be a tall mountain to climb. But ultimately, the 24 turnovers for the Spiders really surprised me. 15 steals for the Longhorns, including 6 by way of Madison Booker, who reminded us, hey, listen, I was a first team all SEC contributor last year. I'm kind of the lead dog here. I'm back for more. Maybe you should give us more attention, even if our style of play isn't necessarily as entertaining as some others, Mitch, especially when you couple the stat of not what you want. 4 of 12 from 3 for the Longhorns. So not exactly aesthetically pleasing. They did shoot 54% from the floor, though. So in terms of
if Kara Lawson is our Kirk Ferentz,
yes,
what's Vic? Is Vic Schaefer like our Pat Narduzzi?
Oh, that's a good one. I like that. I was going to say Paul Chris, but Paul Chris may be getting another job, and he also looks great right now and has no egg on his face in light of what Luke Fickell has done to Wisconsin. But yeah, no, I like that. We could go with Pat. I would agree with that because, listen, Pat's had a couple of teams with some pretty good quarterbacks, and he's been to an ACC championship, and Vic Schaefer has obviously been to the biggie of them all as the head coach at Mississippi State and at Texas, and just, can't beat Dawn Staley. So.
Indeed. I was just going to say, I was a little disappointed that Richmond didn't put up a better fight. I think you wanted a little bit more from, Rachel Alstrom. Maggie Dugan did her thing, but and also I think, credit to Texas. Like, I do think Richmond is still good. I do think they are still going to be a caliber of a team in the A-10 that can get an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament. But maybe I underrated Texas some coming into the season. Like, I kind of talked about how I just wasn't really impressed with their roster. But they do still have Madison Booker, and they do still have Rory Harmon, and they have Aaliyah Crump, and they have Jordan Lee, and Kyla
Oldacre, say her name.
Yeah, Kyla Oldacre. Texas is still pretty good. They're not going to get really challenged again until basically they go to this players era MTE over Thanksgiving, where they're going to play UCLA in game 1, and then we'll see who they get in game 2. But I think UCLA is going to be a really interesting matchup for them, because it is kind of like, oh, we have size and you have size, and let's figure it out. So that's going to be one to watch for sure.
Let's put a bow on your 2 NC State assignments for the first week of the college basketball season. And in the first installment, they came out victorious, Mitch.
Yes. This game was, very like up and down and fast.
Tennessee, NC State, just to clarify, folks.
Tennessee, NC State last Tuesday in the Greensboro Coliseum. This was one where Zam Jones really took over the fourth quarter and saved the day for the Wolfpack. Scored 9 points in the fourth quarter, had 2 assists, and pulled out a 80-77 victory for the Wolfpack. Camille Pierre also really, really big in this game. 21 points, 14 rebounds, has kind of garnered a reputation now for giving Tennessee the business. Last year Vanderbilt did the same thing. I'm going to read you this quote from Kim Caldwell about Camille Pierre. I don't think we guarded her at all. She's a really good transition player. I think she's one of the best players in the country. We can't seem to find her on a box out. And if we do get a stop, she'll go get it and put it back in. And I'm also going to read you a quote from Janiah Barker, who had her debut as a Tennessee player. She said, "We let them go full court. Like Zoe Brooks broke our press just by herself. We didn't rotate how we're supposed to. We didn't do what we practiced. If I'm being honest, that wasn't what we practiced, and it got our ass kicked." End quote. So yeah, I think Tennessee has some things to figure out. As also evidenced by on Sunday, how they kind of struggle with UT Martin for a while, before, pulling away and getting a win there. So yeah, I think Killa Kim has some things to figure out with her hockey rotations and just getting this team to play the way that she wants to play.
Did the Ruby Whitehorn absence, was it felt? I mean, I know she was the fourth leading scorer last year, but on a team that utilizes hockey shifts, is it that critical to not have her to this operation? Or
I kind of wonder if it would have played a factor in that game, just because like you were bringing back someone who started last year and had experience in her system, and now you take away that experience and you have to lean on freshmen like Mia Paldo, or a newcomer like Janiah Barker, who I thought Janiah Barker played really, really well. But yeah, I think Tennessee just has some things to kind of iron out and figure out. They play a game coming up that we'll get into with Making Money with Mitch, against Belmont, and Belmont gave Oklahoma a really good fight in week 1. Tennessee is also going to play against UCLA later this month. So those are a couple games to watch, I think, for measuring sticks for the Lady Vols.
it was a close final score, though. Final in the triangle, with the Wolfpack prevailing 80-77 over the Tennessee Volunteers. I personally, Mitch, just loved the tweets coming out of this one after the first quarter. Cannot believe that Duke and these two teams play the same sport. So yes. So great commentary by all of our colleagues and contemporaries across the world of women's basketball.
I do have two more quick thoughts about this game. One, this was a game where NC State did get the ball to Tilda Trigger, and she scored 19 points and was very awesome, and I think was a big difference maker in this game. Perhaps it would have been the same way if they had gotten her the ball that way against USC. The other thing is Janiah Barker got a tech for doing some finger guns at the NC State bench after hitting a three-pointer, and I just thought that was kind of soft.
Well, was it like finger guns like jazz hands, or was it the...
It wasn't the quite. It was kind of just
the rifle. The rifle has been outlawed now in the National Football League. Basically,
it was a quick, like she swished it from the corner and just kind of turned as she was running and kind of did one of these and
little jazz hands.
Boom, got teed up pretty quickly. So I thought
let the kids have fun. This is such I can't let them have fun. I mean, let us jump in the Salvation Army kettle too while we're at it. Come on, bring back fun. Number 4 in this week's starting 5. This is a double header. I'm going to put 2 games in one, and it's one team, and it is a mid-major team that I don't think we really talked about all that much during our season previews, Mitch, but they certainly proved something in their 2 double-digit wins to open the season over NCAA tournament teams from 1 year ago. It is the Davidson Wildcats. Final score in their first game of the 2025-2026 campaign. Davidson 71, William and Mary 50, and then they go down to Estero, Florida, down to Fort Myers area, and they defeat perennial mid-major power Florida Gulf Coast and head coach and friend of the pod, Raina Harmon's debut, 77-51. To be clear, William and Mary, Florida Gulf Coast, working in new players into the rotation. Davidson is, though, too. Did we sleep on the Wildcats, Mitch? Like, what the heck happened here?
No, I don't think I did.
Okay.
I thought that the A-10 could be a 3-bid league this season.
You did say that. You did say that on the preview.
I think Davidson is one of those teams. I spent a little bit of time with Davidson in the preseason, and I will have a Davidson story maybe this week or next week at SB Nation.
You definitely did not sleep on them then.
But yeah, I think, Davidson last year, they won a program record, I think 13 games in the A-10. They got to the A-10 tournament semifinals. I thought they were going to be a pretty good team this year. They gave Mississippi State a really good fight down in Starkville with the cowbells and everything on opening night, but lost by 9 points. But to bounce back and get that win over William and Mary, and then to win at Florida Gulf Coast, I saw some stat somewhere. Apologies to whoever put this out. It was like only one of like 5 times that FGCU has lost by 20 plus at home or something like that. All
time. Yeah, something like that. Yep.
So, that's a tough place to play. Florida Gulf Coast, perennial NCAA tournament team. William and Mary made the NCAA tournament last year. I really like what Davidson is doing this year. Charlize Dunn is kind of their bus driver, Australian point guard, started her career in Virginia Tech, now a senior there. Ines Garcia is a freshman for them who I think is going to do some big things. She was originally committed to Wisconsin, and Davidson didn't even think they could get her. And then, Wisconsin has the coaching change last year, and all of a sudden she's available and reopens her recruitment and comes on a visit, and, the rest is history. So they have a lot of international flavor. And I think that they're going to put some things together this year and make some noise. They are going to, I think, like their next kind of interesting game is they're going to play in this WBCA showcase down at the ESPN Wide World of Sports Complex, which might be in your neck of the woods. Is that
down the road? It's about 2 hours, an hour and 45 minutes from me.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they're going to play Miami there, and then they're going to play Baylor there. So like Baylor's a top 25 team. I think Miami's going to be better. So both of those games are ones that I would keep an eye on for Davidson to maybe show a little bit more proof of concept.
Done with 11 points in the opener, 20 against FGCU, 2 Wildcats with 20 points in that one. Round out this week's starting 5 with a little bit more mid-major flair, Mitch, from the Ivy League, one of our favorite mid-major conferences.
Yeah, the Ivy League, got started, I think, on Friday night it was, and already kind of has some big wins in the book. Princeton going down to Georgia Tech and getting a win down there in Atlanta, 67-61. Fadima Tall, 16 points, 14 rebounds in that game. She's somebody that we should keep an eye on this year. And Madison St. Rose is back from injury, playing well, 13 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. I think Princeton is probably your Ivy League favorite this year. I think that the Ivy might revert back, to being a one-bid league.
But 3 last year was astronomical, to be frank.
Sure, yeah. But I think Princeton is going to be really, really good, and they have some other interesting games coming up. They're going to play at Villanova. They're going to play at Maryland. They're going to play against Penn State. So they have Belmont in December. Like, they have some games coming up where we're going to be able to see a little bit more just of kind of like what they're made of. Columbia, I think, also got off to, pretty impressive starts of the season. They won in overtime at Butler. I think Riley Weiss is one of the best 3-point shooters in the country, so I would continue to keep an eye on her. And then they got a win on Sunday at Ohio by almost 22 points. Oh, my math is wrong. 18 points. I'm in the ballpark. It's fine. So Columbia, I think, is still going to be up there. I think it's just a question of all right, how good is the A10 going to be? How good is the Big East going to be?
And if you ask this podcast, at least in preview form, we had some questions about the rest of the Big East beyond Stores, Connecticut.
So I think we're going to have a situation where those 3 leagues, obviously all going to have auto bid. Spoiler alert: the Big East is going to go to UConn.
Wait, really? I'm just kidding.
And then, I think those 3 leagues are going to kind of be fighting over, whatever the next, maybe it's 4 at-larges, and does 2 go to 1 and, 1 to each other? I don't know how that's going to play out yet, but I think Columbia, if you're looking for, okay, maybe the Ivy can be a 2-bid league again. Maybe Columbia is that second team that can get there.
We are recording this podcast on Monday, November 10th, later at night. At least as of, I think we now have confirmation that they have made it back to New York City, but Columbia was stranded in Ohio with some travel issues because of the government shutdown. So
Indeed.
That's certainly going to be a storyline to follow here as the non-conference slate continues over the next few weeks, Mitch, although hopefully with the government, knock on wood, reopening, I don't know if the airports are going to recover that quickly. So going to be something to monitor for sure.
Get it together, DC.
Yeah, please. We're begging you. We need college basketball. Let's keep it moving. Let's head to our stock report. We picked each 3 players who we either have up, we have down. We're monitoring this player's stock. I think we all, both of us picked all players who the stock is firmly arrow pointing up, Mitch. And why not? Because I think everybody started, at neutral. We want to see who's up. We want to give you guys some names to keep an eye out for. Is there a player who is must-see TV? And so, Mitch, give us your 3 players who, in your estimation, we should be taking stock in after 1 week of the college basketball season.
Yeah, I'm going to start in the Big 12. And I know last year Kansas State fans gave me a lot of grief on social media for not ranking them high in my AP poll. I'm very high on Kansas State this year. I think they have a
Without
really good team.
Aoka Lee, folks, and without the Sundell sister.
Yeah.
Serena. Shout
So
out Serena.
Taryn Sides, I want to highlight her in her debut. She is a junior, her season debut this year, her first start, I believe, ever. She had a career high 12 assists to go along with 15 points, 7 rebounds, 4 steals, and 0 turnovers in 24 minutes of action. I looked up some numbers on her hoop stats. Sides is just one of 3 players to record that stat line. So that many points, rebounds, assists, and steals without a turnover in a single game since 2009. The other 2 were Iowa's Samantha Logic and Arkansas Pine Bluff's Zay Green. Sides did it in less minutes than both of them and had the better field goal percentage of the 3. She is also the first Big 12 player since at least 1999 to have such a stat. So she is somebody to keep an eye on this year. Kansas State went down and got a big non-conference win at SMU on Saturday on a buzzer beater. I think Kansas State is going to be just fine this season without Aoka Lee and Serena Sundell.
Very exciting news for the Little Apple because so many believed after they lost those integral stalwarts out in Manhattan, Kansas, that maybe we might see them take a step back. But you're going to go 2 for 2 in your stock report with players from the Big 12, Mitch. And it's a name that, look, we have a lot of fun bringing it up on this show, but we alluded to it after opening night. Joe Girardi's daughter may be a walking bucket, folks.
Yeah, Lena Girardi is very, very good. So she's, Oklahoma State's already played 4 games this year, and they're 4-0 now. In my Paul Feinbaum voice, they ain't played nobody. They played New Orleans and East Texas A&M and some school called Langston and Oral Roberts. But regardless, they are 4-0, and they are shooting the lights out of the basketball. And Lena Girardi is very much a part of that. So in one of their wins, she hit 9 3-pointers, which is a program record for Oklahoma State en route to 29 points. She also had 15 points against New Orleans, 12 points against Oral Roberts. She is somebody that we should really keep an eye on this year, potentially a freshman of the year candidate in the Big 12. Maybe somebody who can kind of push Aaliyah Chavez and Jazzy Davidson in that national race. We'll see how the season progresses, but I really like just the start of the season for Oklahoma State, and then just Lena Girardi coming out of nowhere. Not out of nowhere, but I feel like in the grand scheme of things, she wasn't one of the 5 freshmen everybody was talking about coming into the season.
Well,
but
she
now,
went to a really tiny school in Florida too, to be clear. I mean, for high school, it wasn't like she was even playing at one of the Bishop Moores or one of the big 4A or 5A private schools here in the state of Florida, let alone if she had gone to one of the massive public schools in the Tampa, Clearwater area.
Right. But I think she's going to be a difference maker for Oklahoma State this year. Oklahoma State, I had them 14th in my AP Top 25 poll this week. I really think JC Hoyt has some things cooking there with the Cowgirls.
And we also love her post-game press conferences where her small child is just out here handing out W's and handing out good vibes and smiles. Shades of Riley Curry. We love to see it. By the way, 9 3-pointers in a single game. I would think, considering that many WNBA teams, that is their single game record. I would think that most college programs, 9 threes in a single game would be the program record. And for Lena Girardi to do that in her first week as a collegiate player, it's pretty good, Mitch. It's pretty good.
For sure.
Who is the third player for you that you're monitoring their stock this week?
Yeah, we'll round it out in the SEC. I had Florida on a little bit of hot seat watch coming into this season.
It's okay. I do too. I still may or may not, but continue.
The good news for her and the Gators is that they have Liv McGill, who's very, very, very good, and who has started her season by scoring 26 points against North Florida and then 38 points against Chattanooga. By the way, had 9 assists in one of those games and 10 assists in the other one, and 9 rebounds in one of those games and 8 rebounds in the other one, and 5 steals in one of those games and 7 steals in the other one. So flirting with quadruple doubles in her first 2 games of the season, Liv McGill. So
Top
yeah,
5 scorer nationally too. So
yes,
yeah.
she is, I'm pretty sure, going to be one of our USBWA National Players of the Week this week when those come out. So that, if you're a Florida fan, you got that going for you. You got Liv McGill. You got somebody who might be in the conversation this year as far as like the national scoring title is concerned, like somebody who might lead the nation in scoring. Would be the second year in a row for a player in the great state of Florida. So Liv McGill, yeah, she is somebody that is going to be at the top of Florida, scouting reports for SEC teams, and somebody that we should keep an eye on, as non-conference play progresses.
True sophomore out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Obviously, I don't think we've had outside of the state of Minnesota a big name quite like Paige Beckers in quite some time that is taking the college basketball world on fire. They do play some great high school hoops, though, up there in Minnesota. So good to see them represented, even if it is in the SEC.
Oh, she did go to Hopkins, same high school as Paige Beckers. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So file that one away. Lightning can strike twice, perhaps. But to your point, Mitch, hopefully it doesn't strike twice in that Kelly Ray Finley loses Liv McGill next year to the transfer portal, like Tanaya Latson, of course, went that way for Florida State, heading up to little old South Carolina. I like the shout, though, for sure.
Yeah, if I could circle a game that maybe you should watch Liv McGill in, they are going to play at Navy on November 16th, Sunday. On ESPN Plus at 1 p.m. Eastern. I point that out because Navy is the preseason favorite in the Patriot League, and they also have a really good player. The Patriot League Player of the Year is Zanai Barnett-Gay. So that could be a good kind of one-on-one there, and could be an interesting non-con for Florida.
I've only watched one Florida game. I know, obviously, we're only 1 week into the season so far, and it was against North Florida, which you'll hear about them a time or two if you're new to this podcast, just because not only do I provide play-by-play for their games, but also I work at the University of North Florida on the side, and I do work with the women's basketball team, and so was tuning in for both sides to certainly see what Florida has cooking with Liv McGill and Kelly Ray Finley, their head coach, but then also to check in on our Ospreys. And the fact that UNF was up early had me a little worried about Finley and the crew. But yes, Liv McGill and company, quite frankly, the athleticism just took over as it does with so many mid-majors against power fours this time of year. And it truly showed in that one in particular. But yeah, no, I was a little excited for my Ospreys, a little worried for Florida early before they pulled away big time in the second quarter.
Shout out to the Ospreys.
Swoop. My 3 players whose I am keeping stock, watching their stock, monitoring their stock. Also, sidebar, my dad just texted me about my AP ballot. Can people leave us alone, Mitch? We are 1 week into the college season. Like, stop criticizing me, Father.
Is your dad a Purdue fan?
No, he is a Duke fan, so
okay.
I think he's happy. But maybe he does like Matt Painter, so I digress. The 3 players who I am watching this week in our stock report, I'm going to take the low-hanging fruit. I'm going to go first with Jazzy Davidson, not Henderson. That's definitely going to be one that's going to be a mental block for me this year. I don't know why. I don't have any friends with the last name Henderson, except for Carter Hendrickson, the assistant men's coach at UNF. Swoop once more. Jazzy Davidson against number 9 NC State, as we already recapped that game. 21 points, 5 blocks, 4 boards, 4 assists, 3 steals, and the game-winning layup because she became the bus driver in that second half in the Trojans' victory on the road at the Ally tip-off. And in her first career game against New Mexico State, 14 points in 30 minutes, maybe those first game jitters, was 4 of 16 from the floor, so not exactly a great scoring margin there. But make no mistake about it, Mitch, she is a little more subtle, I would argue, than Juju Watkins, where you can feel her presence at all times. But to your point, because she can facilitate as well as go create her own shot and go get a bucket when you need it most, I think that that's where it's going to be a tantalizing combo with Sanaya Hall then being added next year and Juju Watkins returning.
Yeah, and just kind of an interesting, style and like body type. Like she's 6'1", but like really long, and it's like she had no problem driving inside against like Camille Pierre and Tilda Trigger, and just putting the ball in the bucket. But also stepped out and hit a couple of threes. So she's a really versatile player. I think it's going to be fun to just watch her grow over the next couple of years at USC.
She does not do the top bun. She does the back bun. I don't know
Indeed.
if that's going to make its way around the college basketball fan bases around the country, but we do get Juju back next year. So I think everybody's going to be rocking the bun come 26, 27.
Buns of all kinds at USC.
Yes. Buns are fun. So is the nation's leading scorer through 1 week of college basketball, Megan Anderson, out of Fairfield, averaging 32.5 points per game. Yes, you heard that right. Not only did she drop 30 plus in each of Fairfield's opening games, they did it against decent competition, Mitch, I would say, for Fairfield, which is one of our mid-majors to watch in 25-26, a 75-63 victory over Villanova, in which she had 35, 7 boards, 2 assists, and 2 steals. And then against Lehigh from the Patriot League, 30 points, 6 boards, 3 assists, 4 steals. I know she's a name, and certainly Fairfield, a team that you've had your eye on for a lot of months leading into the 25-26 season. And I do think that, hey, listen, if we're going to talk about Davidson as a team that went against 2 teams that just went to the NCAA tournament, Lehigh and Villanova, I mean, are going to at least be in the mix. I know we have our thoughts on the Big East. We have our thoughts on the Patriot League. But, hey, listen, I thought that it's not like they were going up against, with all due respect, NC Central or New College of Florida, which is who the UNF men are playing on Saturday, and I did not know was a school.
New College of Florida. Okay. I think for Davidson Fairfield to start the season off by getting a road win by double digits at a Big East school, like that is a really good sign for them heading into the season. And then you beat Lehigh by double digits at home, who is a team that won the Patriot League last year and played in the NCAA tournament. So those are 2 solid wins. Megan Anderson is somebody that I think we have to keep an eye on this season as somebody who might be somebody who wins that Becky Hammond Mid-Major Player of the Year award that her Hoop Stats hands out. Might be somebody who even contends for the scoring title. Fairfield has some interesting matchups coming up. They're going to go to Vegas later this week, and they're going to play South Florida, and they're also going to play North Carolina. And then later this month, they're going to play at Iowa, and then in December, they have a road game at Richmond. So a couple big non-conference games for them that I think could be real resume boosters for their March Madness hopes, and could tell us a lot about just like how good they can be this year. And I know they've been in the dance the past 2 seasons, but maybe this is the year that they finally get to the tournament and win a game there.
Anderson is a junior, so thought would be we'd have another year of her at Fairfield, unless, of course, she gets scooped up too. 6'1", has shot 60.5% from the floor, Mitch. I mean, you tell me, like, my first thought and self-admitted, didn't watch either of those 2 games, just watched some highlights. Little Maddie Seagristy, or at the very least, the box score kind of resembles that because she plays the wing, technically a forward in name, certainly can, crash the boards as well. How would you describe the style of play for those who haven't seen Megan Anderson?
Well, at Fairfield, technically, she is a road runner.
Thank you.
Look at their roster.
Sorry. Yes. How could I forget?
They have no forwards. They have no centers. They have guards and road runners. Shout out to assistant coach Blake Dudonis for coming up with that. But I think Maddie Segrist is a fair comp. Like, she has that inside out game, like where she can step out and hit the threes, but is very good inside as well. And like you mentioned, kind of like that tweener sort of body style where like she can play in the post, but is more of a wing. And I think that's a pretty good comp. I like that. Maddie Segrist.
Who also was a walking bucket, who was top 5 in scoring in the country out of Villanova once upon a time.
Yes. And who, it's funny, whenever I think about Maddie Segrist, I did this interview with her one time before she was Big East Player of the Year. And like Villanova was by far the best offer that she got out of high school. And the former Villanova coach who was there for a long time, whose name escapes me at the moment, but when she first committed, he was like, to be honest with you, I don't know if you can play here. And as it turns out, she now plays in the WNBA. Led the nation in scoring, Big East Player of the Year, all that good stuff. Led them to a Sweet 16. She was awesome. So
WNBA draft pick too. So
now playing for our friend Jose Fernandez.
Yes, playing for Jose, who's also going to come up during last call. So let's keep it moving. My third player that I am watching on our stock report. I don't want to say she's going to become a reoccurring character, but she already is a
She
character
already is.
in our zeitgeist here on the Women's Basketball Podcast. The Joes are going to start talking about her soon if they haven't already. She is the product, Kiyomi. It may change next week. McMillan started her career at Rutgers. She's at Penn State now, hanging out with Gracie Merkel and friends, potentially coaching staff on the hot seat after the Temple. Yeah, Temple. That was an exhibition game, Mitch. That's preseason. We're not going to talk about
that was an exhibition game.
Yeah, we're not going to. Was it Temple or was it Bucknell?
It was Temple. They beat Bucknell in the opener.
Yes. So it was Temple was the exhibition game. Bucknell was the opener. Penn State is 2-0 as we record this podcast. An impressive 83-55 win over Bucknell. And in that game, the product with 27 points, 6 boards, 6 assists. And then against Cincinnati, she had 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 7 assists and 5 steals. Should also be noted that Cincinnati, one of our quote unquote mid-majors. I know it's tough because they're in the Big 12, so I guess they're not a mid-major. I still view them as one, even though they're in the Big 12. So they are a Power 4 outfit. Sorry, Cincinnati. We have our eye on you because they've done a really good job on the recruiting trail since entering the Power 4 ethos. Now, to that point, Mitch, I'm going to rattle off all those stats. Anscape had a feature on the product earlier this week, and that is why my stock report includes her, because some of these quotes, including when she met Maya Moore at Pier 17 in New York City over the summer, she just went up and introduced herself.
I'm just seeing this for the first time. I'm the most skilled player in college basketball.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. All right. And this is what she said about meeting Maya Moore. Quote, "It gave me a chance to look at her and compare my height. In my head, it's always a competition. It was definitely kind of an encouragement. I'm trying to be where you're at right now, be considered the greatest of all time." It's great. I mean, it's great content. Like, State College needs something in light of the football season they just went through. And I don't know if men's basketball is going to save them. Volleyball, I know you're top 5 team, so it's fine. But yeah, no, it's the product, baby. Like, it always be marketing. Like Caitlin Clark said it, but Kiyomi McMillan is going to make it actually like on a t-shirt somewhere.
One of my favorite things about Kiyomi McMillan is that her like NIL agent or whatever is Floyd Mayweather's guy, Leonard Ellerby. It's just very, very interesting to me.
And it's insane that she's the first student who, while she was still in high school, to sign an NIL deal with Jordan Brand. Like, of any basketball player, man or woman, like, it's her, and we shouldn't be surprised. But I want to know if Michael actually signed off on that, or was it just because of the Mayweather connection?
Yeah, I'm kind of scrolling down now. I wouldn't really change anything about my freshman year. Okay, there's that.
She's about to go to four schools in 4 years. Like, we're all in agreement on that, right?
I think so. And Ellerby asked about his reaction to critics of McMillan's camp, which he is a part of. Ellerby replied, "All BS." Quote. Okay. I'm just glad she's out of that situation. There's no hard feelings with anyone there. Sure. I think Kiyomi McMillan is a content machine that we will continue to revisit as the season progresses. This is fascinating.
Yeah, no, listen, you probably saw it on the rundown and you're like, oh yeah, she had 2 20+ point games, and Kiyomi is obviously, a reoccurring character on this podcast. But no, it was because I saw that Anscape did a profile on her, and I said, oh, her mom and dad and the Mayweather agent, they're scheming, they're pumped. The brand is strong.
Yeah,
and also the comments about Maya Moore. I'm just like, dude, like, you are 19 years old. Like, who goes up to Maya Moore and like tries to like size them up? Like, we just had an incident here in Florida with Olivier Roux, who is the world's tallest teenager, as a sophomore, I guess technically a redshirt freshman on the Florida men's team. And Trey Cassidy, who's one of the freshmen here at UNF, he actually is 19 because he prepped last year. I digress. Point being, Trey's like 6'3". Actually, no, he's a little bit taller. He's like 6'7". He goes up to Olivier and like sizes him up, like to try to like see how tall he is. Like, that's one thing. Like, you're standing next to an 8 foot tall human. I would do the same thing because it's funny. Like, to be 19 years old and have the audacity to go up to Maya Moore and try to like measure like your height, like it's dude. Like,
there's a graph in here that says Keeger found similarities between McMiller and Ashley Owusu, another player Keeger had previously signed out of the transfer portal. That is hilarious to me. Just because of how Ashley Owusu's college career ended, I think you should ask Maryland fans and Virginia Tech fans, and specifically you can ask Virginia Tech, the players who she played with at Virginia Tech when they were in the Final Four, and Ashley Owusu in the first half was cheering for Angel Reese, who played for the other team. And then mysteriously, Ashley Owusu was not on the bench in the second half of the Final Four. Interesting how that turned out. She played well, I guess, the next season at Penn State, but certainly comparing those two, they might have some things in common about their personalities. Sure, certainly.
Well, here's the thing. Again, Penn State has to stay relevant in women's basketball and in the Big Ten landscape. So you know what? Just go get the content machines, and at the very least, they will draw some form, shape of eyeballs and intrigue to your program.
We also got the.
I knew Mitch was going to love this, by the way. Like I'm shocked, but I know you've got a lot going on with covering 5 games in 7 days and what have you. But I knew that this would be in your wheelhouse.
Here's the kicker quote. Last season was just a little taste of what I can do. It's just the beginning, a very small taste of Kaomi. Okay, so she's talking in the third person. I love that. That's great. Said McMiller, who added that she's in the best shape of her life. Like we got the NFL like preseason like best shape of their life thing going on here. And then it continues. You really didn't see much. I would say that we saw a lot. So you really have to pay attention this year because now it's going to be so much different. TBD. We will see.
We could do a whole podcast just on the product, but we do have to keep it moving. We have to get to the first installment of Making Money with Mitch of the 25-26 college basketball season. 3 games, 3 spreads that Mitch Northam is keeping his eye on this week. We begin with that mid-major SEC tilt we already alluded to, the Belmont Bruins, who sure as heck gave Oklahoma a scare on opening night, taking on Killa Kim's Lady Vols.
Yeah, this game is Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern on the SEC Network. The line that I'm seeing as we record is Tennessee is favored by 17.5 points. I think based on how Belmont played against Oklahoma and how Tennessee struggled with UT Martin, I would take Belmont to cover 17.5 and keep things pretty close with the Fighting Killa Kims.
I like it a lot. Now we move to one of our other favorite college football analogies in our women's basketball podcast world. James Franklin, Corey Close, and the UCLA Bruins with their first test of the 25-26 season as they face the North Carolina Tar Heels. I was trying to come up with something like creative for Courtney Banghart and like say some college football analogy, but I don't got one.
Yeah, I'd have to give some thought on Courtney Banghart's college football doppelganger. But yeah, this game is also Thursday night. This is 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2 from out in Las Vegas. The line here is UCLA favored by 6.5. I'm going to take UCLA and those points just because I think that UCLA's size is going to give North Carolina some problems. I think North Carolina still has some things to figure out on the offensive end. They really struggled shooting the 3-pointer against checks notes Elon on Thursday. So they cannot struggle that much shooting from 3-point land if they expect to keep up with UCLA. I just think Lauren Betts is going to present real problems for them. We'll see if Sierra Toomey is up to the challenge. But yeah, I would take UCLA at 6.5.
Since I alluded to it, here is the quote from the UCLA head coach Corey Close on the difficulties of scheduling for the 25-26 UCLA non-conference schedule. Quote, yeah, it was interesting. Dawn warned me about this 2 years ago. She did. Actually, at the Final Four, she goes, you're about to have your hardest schedule here. She goes, I didn't want to play all the games I played this year, but no one else will pay us. Well, no one else will play us, excuse me. And it's really interesting. I don't understand it, to be honest with you. I've been on the other side. I was at Santa Barbara for 9 years. This is Corey Close talking about herself now. If you want to grow and be challenged, and if you're a competitor, you step into those places. And they kept saying, oh, it's the Lauren Betts factor. And I was like, no, it's a you're scared factor. Like, I'm like, come on, I really lose respect for people that aren't willing to step up and play hard people.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that happens. Kenny Brooks talked about that as well the year after the Virginia Tech went to the Final Four, and they were bringing back Elizabeth Kitley and Georgia Amor. Ain't nobody wanted to play Virginia Tech with Elizabeth Kitley in her 5th year and Georgia Amor. And I don't think there's a whole lot of teams. I think it's really like the size of it. I think it's like, like if you have a Final Four team and, it's just like, oh, like they kind of play small, like, but when you have like an intimidating center and you might be like a tough Power Four team or even a good mid-major team, and you're like, man, we just don't have anybody that can play with Elizabeth Kitley, or we don't have anybody that can play with Lauren Betts. Like, you just don't want those problems. And so, yeah, I definitely get that. And that's a common thing for, and I'm sure with Dawn Staley, it was like people didn't want those problems with Aaliyah Boston, right?
Camila Cardoso.
Right. So, yeah, that's a thing.
One more in this week's Making Money with Mitch. Again, we have Belmont plus 17.5 at Tennessee, UCLA minus 6.5 against North Carolina. And finally, we round it out with
Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern on NBC. Michigan is going to play against Notre Dame in Detroit. Notre Dame, I think, I'm not really sure I understand this line, and maybe this is one of those cases where the people who make the lines aren't really paying attention to women's college basketball. Notre Dame is favored by 7.5 points. Again, folks, I keep saying this. I know that Notre Dame has Hannah Hidalgo. I think you should look at the rest of the roster. And I think when you look at Michigan's roster and when you look at Notre Dame's roster, I think Michigan has the better team. Now, does Michigan have the better player? No. But Hannah Hidalgo can only do so much. Hannah Hidalgo is not going to score 70 points. So she might try, but I'm going to keep an eye on this game just in general because it's really Notre Dame's first test. Notre Dame played 2 kind of cupcakes to open the year, and in both of those games, Hannah Hidalgo played 30-plus minutes, and I'm not sure that's a recipe for long-term success when you have to play Hannah Hidalgo 33 minutes against Fairleigh Dickinson. And I'm not sure you can count on Vanessa DeJesus to pop off for 20 points against Michigan. So we'll see. We'll see if I'm right. But I would take.
You're gonna be right.
I would take Michigan to cover 7.5 in this game for sure.
And maybe even win it outright. Because to your point, Mitch, that Michigan big 3, they were all freshmen a year ago. Now they're sensational sophomores. Listen, Harvard, as we already alluded to, probably not making the NCAA tournament. The Ivy League's probably a 2-bid league this year, but at the same time, Michigan routed them 84-55 in their opener. And when those 3 fantastic sophomores all scored in double figures and tallied, quick math here, that's right, 51 of the 84 points that Michigan scored against a team that went to the NCAA tournament from a year ago, even if it is a reworked roster. Yeah, I just don't think that Notre Dame has the horses for courses. And I've honestly found it kind of hilarious to see some of our contemporaries in the women's basketball world making, wow, Hannah Hidalgo can't do it all herself as one of the biggest takeaways from week 1 of the college basketball season, because we've been saying it for months, folks.
We were saying that in April.
We've literally been saying this since everything went awry and Olivia Miles saw TCU from across the court and said, I want to go play for Mark Campbell. And then the entire roster followed her out of South Bend. Like, I was literally explaining this to shout out to my friends, Eric and Rachel out in Iowa, who I know are listening to this right now. They also want Kevin Schwartz to come visit us again when he filled in for you over the summer. So we'll bring Kevin back at some point in time. Point being, Eric and Rachel were like, so what's the deal with Notre Dame? Like, why do you guys hate on them? And I said, it's not that we hate on them, because I love Niele Ivey and her beautiful suits. And ask any of the ladies at my local gym. We talk about it all the time because there's a lot of Notre Dame alums. Like, I want them to be successful, but ultimately, I don't care if you follow women's basketball or not. If you follow sports, if you know college age kids, if you're an educator, if you see a roster that its number 1 option, their national player of the year, comes back, and one other player returns from the roster from a year before, even in the age of the transfer portal, that's a red flag. Then you couple that with the ESPN series in which that other player who is not the number one scoring option, is depicted as number one scoring option's best friend, then you tell me, Mitch. That's not exactly a healthy ecosystem, at least looking from the outside in.
Yeah, and I love watching Hannah Hildoggo play
Same.
basketball.
She's from New Jersey. I have to love her. Like, sorry, but
Yeah.
it does something. The math is not mathing here, and it's both as far as the on the court product is also whatever's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be a realist about like the potential for how much success Notre Dame can have this year with the way this roster is constructed. Because like even if you take the Olivia Miles part out of it, like you lost Sonia Citron, you lost Maddie Westbeld, you lost Leah Tu King,
Kate
like
Koval.
all those players saw time in the WNBA this year. And Sonia Citron was like runner up for Rookie of the Year. Maybe you can make the case she should have won it. That's another topic. But and then Kate Koval, who like I think a lot of people were like, oh, that's the center of the future.
She's got next.
She's got next. She goes down to LSU to play for Kim Mulkey.
Well, but her brother's on the men's team. Come on, Mitch. It's all in the family.
Sure.
Come on.
Whatever.
I don't buy it. I don't buy it. They all left for a reason.
Whatever way you want to slice it, like just like basketball, they did not find replacement level talent for what they lost. And I think people are going to realize that within these next few games where they're going to play Michigan and USC. And then when we get to December, they're going to play Ole Miss in the ACC SEC Challenge. Like those are 3 games that I kind of have circled where I think like people are going to, we're going to find out for real. Like, okay, like have we been right about Notre Dame or are they better than we have projected them to be? We'll find out.
Is Notre Dame about to be our new K-State in terms of the fans coming after us? I'm just saying the ladies of the gym were like, man, you guys go hard in the paint when it comes to the Fighting Irish, man.
Well, I told Notre Dame fans last week on Twitter that if Notre Dame in the year of our Lord 2026 wins the ACC tournament, afterwards I will sit outside of Gas South Arena in Duluth, Georgia in a dunk tank and we can charge $1 a throw and we'll give the money to a charity, NEL Ivy's Choice or whatever, or the South Bend Food Bank or whatever. And we can do that. I'll get dunked in water for an hour. But I don't see it. I don't see it happening. So
Producer Dimitri, we're clipping this. If there's any incentive, if you're a sponsor out there to want to send us to Duluth, Georgia for the ACC tournament, you just heard it here first, folks. Let's file that one away.
But it's not going to happen. So it's fine.
Let's get to last call. All the storylines, the big names, the big scores that we may have missed on today's episode. We didn't get to talk a lot about the W, so we will now. The draft lottery is set for November 23rd, despite the fact that CBA negotiations remain ongoing and the 2026 season remains in flux. According to ESPN, the odds to land the number 1 overall pick read as follows. And a reminder that the Minnesota Lynx will be picking in the top 5 in the lottery because of the pick conveyed from the Chicago Sky. Yeah. Yep. You heard that right, folks. The Dallas Wings, 42% chance to land the number 1 overall pick to go with new head coach Jose Fernandez. The Minnesota Lynx, who probably should have won the WNBA title, but did not. 26.1% chance of winning the number 1 overall pick via the lottery, followed by Seattle at 16.7%, Washington at 9.7%, and the Sky at 5.5%. Again, not their original pick. I love some good ping pong balls bouncing around, Mitch. I miss it so, but I am curious to see which way we see the draft lottery going, especially knowing what it could mean for a rebuilding outfit in Dallas, as well as potentially a Minnesota team that, we thought had all the pieces to win it all a year ago.
I think if Dallas wins the number 1 overall pick, you can go ahead and pencil in Lauren Betts to be the number 1 overall pick to pair with Paige Beckers and Maddie Siegrist and Isaiah James and JJ Quinterly and co down there with Coach Jose.
Speaking of Coach Jose, he was formally introduced as the head coach of the Dallas Wings, and I really appreciated the homage he played to the former USF men's basketball coach, Amir Abdur-Rahim, who, of course, tragically passed away while in surgery last October, and got a chance to cover a couple of his games when he was coaching in the A-Sun, and so I appreciated that from Jose. There was a lot of beef, and again, I know we don't have an official beef of the week on today's program. There was a lot of beef coming out of the photos that came from this introductory press conference. Some of the players who were in attendance, some of the players.
I missed this.
some of the players who were not in attendance. Paige Beckers was not in the house. Maddie Seacrest was there, and she's going to be on the roster by all accounts. But shout out to my friend Josh Hines Allen and his sister. Is she going to be sticking around? Maisha, is she going to be sticking around Dallas? We don't know. But ultimately, we don't know anyone who's going to be on any roster outside of those players on rookie contracts currently, given the state of the CBA negotiations and what free agency could look like.
Yeah, I wouldn't read too much into Paige not being there. She was at the Louisville UConn game in Annapolis. I did see that. So maybe she was just busy, hanging out with Easy,
Yeah. As she does. Yeah, as she does.
And I think Jose even said he plans on going to a UConn practice soon to just
just
check,
pick Gino's brain.
Probably do some scouting and also, pick Gino's brain a little bit. So
speaking of storylines that could have been this week's beef of the week, but we saved it for last call. Nneka Ogwumike, the WNBA president, signed with Project B, which is a new women's professional basketball league. It's set to launch November of next year. Why this is controversial and potentially beef, Mitch? Project B players will receive an undisclosed salary plus an equity stake in the league. League officials have stated the 66 players across six teams will earn higher salaries than those currently offered in the WNBA, with the potential lockout looming. And if that line about undisclosed salary plus an equity stake sounds familiar, it's because it's ringing the bell in your head for Live Golf, which of course was backed by some Saudi investment groups. And that's kind of the question now: is the WNBA PA president, or WNBPA, my favorite acronym in all of the world, WNBPA president, is out here signing with another league. And just listen, I truly believe, independent of women's basketball, we are at a juncture in sports where if you want to talk about, the Saudi backing and how awful it is and America and this, that, I respect that. And you're entitled to that opinion, but European soccer, racing, they have bought so much equity and so much stake in so many of these professional outfits up to this point that it's going to be a part of the game, and it has come for women's basketball. For me, that's the reality. I just think it's a little bit of a red flag that the WNBPA president is the first known player to sign with the league.
I think that was my thing too. I do, it is sports washing. We don't have to get into all that. Everybody seems to be, if the Saudis are handing out money, people are willing to take it. Michael Lombardi, UNC football GM, took a trip to Saudi Arabia to see if he could get some of their money for Bill Belichick, because apparently North Carolina doesn't have enough. But yeah, I do find it interesting, and I kind of think it is hustling backwards a little bit for the president of the WNBA Players Association to align herself with a league that is at least associated with Saudi money amidst a crucial CBA negotiation. I just think that is not a great look. Apparently the people with Project B have pushed back on, they told Front Office Sports, oh, we're not funded by, Saudi Arabia, but the Financial Times reported that it was backed in part by Saudi Arabia Sovereign Wealth Fund. So I think we're, there's a little bit of messiness happening there. I would also just like to add, we still don't really have any
updates.
Well, I was just going to say, evidence that the people, associated with the Saudi fund, they're not good at running sports leagues.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if we've realized this.
Outside of European soccer, there maybe are a couple.
The F1 is trending downward. That's just a fact. And they just signed a really dumb TV deal, I think, with Apple TV, that a lot of people in NASCAR are rejoicing about, because I think the viewers, that whatever viewers F1 was stealing, I think those folks are going to come back because they're not going to pay for Apple TV. And Live Golf is a cluster, So
Phil Mickelson's too busy arguing with Pablo Torre. So
he is. Yes, I saw that.
Which we need Pablo to get on this, if I'm being completely honest. Pablo, if you're listening, Bomani, word along.
I would like to learn more about Project B. I also find it kind of interesting that we haven't heard any other players signing with Project B since this came out last week, like you would think, oh, NECA and, but we haven't. I don't know who else is in it, so we'll see.
Time for some more positive news. It's time for everyone's favorite segment on the Women's Basketball Podcast. Say something nice about Notre Dame, Mitch. I will say something nice about Notre Dame. The number 24 recruit in the class of 2026, Jenica Lewis, has committed to Niele Ivy and the Fighting Irish. After many over the last 2-3 weeks thought that McKenna W. I'm never going to pronounce her last name. That's why Raygun made a shirt that said we're never going to be able to pronounce her last name. That McKenna W. and her family, maybe we're going to convince Lewis to go to Iowa, join forces, especially if they get Addie Bajorn too. Big 3 coming in for Jan Jensen. But instead, Lewis does stick with what many believed, including all the crystal ball predictions, that she would go to Notre Dame. And by all accounts, I mean, Hannah Hidalgo will be back next year because she doesn't turn 21 this year. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mitch. So she will be back for her senior year, assuming.
Yeah, she'll be back.
Unless she goes into the portal too. And so, hey, listen, at least there's reinforcements on the way. Let's hope that she vibes with Hannah.
Yeah, we'll see.
That's a we'll see. That's a we'll see. Did you get a chance to take a look at some of the Unrivaled rosters? Have you picked a new favorite team in Unrivaled, Mitch? I'm curious because for me, at least my final news and notes, I'm going to end on that. Already rolling with Breeze, not just because I think the team name is awesome, but this is their roster. We got Paige Beckers, Cam Brink, Kate Martin, Ari McDonald, Rakea Jackson, and Dominique Malanga. Like, talk about like some of my favorite players from different circles and pockets of professional women's basketball and college basketball on one roster. Like, I'm all the way here for it. So that's my early pick for my favorite team. With all due respect to some of the other outfits, and a lot of these teams are elite. I like a lot of the combinations. I'm going with Breeze because and also the Lunar Owls. Speaking of drama and Notre Dame. They've got both Skylar Diggins and Marina Mabry on the same roster. What could possibly go wrong with the two Notre Dame girls on the same team?
Mm-hmm. I kind of like, just like for fun, Rose. We got Chelsea Gray, Kalia Copper, Lexi Hall,
Good
Shakira
vibes.
Alston, Azura Stevens, Sug Sutton. The
Azure was a real like standout performer in Unrivaled last year. Like that's when I was like, damn, like I knew your game was good, but sheesh, man. And then seeing her live in person back in Indianapolis in July, I was like, not enough people talk about her.
I think Phantom could have a really good, like one of the best starting lineups when you talk about Kelsey Plum, Satu Sabali, and Aaliyah Boston. Like that's pretty good. And then you got Kiki Irief and Natasha Cloud and Dana Evans off the bench. I still don't love a lot of these team names. They just kind of sound like teams that the Harlem Globetrotters would play against.
Come on, I do love the Hootie Hoo, the Lunar Owls.
Lunar Owls is good. Lunar Owls is the outlier, but like Phantom, like what are we doing here?
Well, we got the Hive and the Breeze. Those are the two new ones this year.
Okay. Breeze is okay, I guess. I don't know. I like Lunar Owls. I think people should have leaned in more to like the 2-word team names instead of just Rose, Mist, Hive. Like it kind of sounds like Captain Planet, like, with our powers combined. I don't know. I just stop.
People are a little concerned, by the way, because Courtney Williams is not on the Lunar Owls this year. I think Nafisa just was like, I can't have too many of my teammates on my team.
She's had her Courtney Williams, Phil.
Or don't create more content for the folks at home. Come on now.
She's on Vinyl, which was the team name. Again, I don't know. Courtney Williams, Ryan Howard, Derek Hamby, Erica Wheeler, Ray Burrell, and Brittany Griner. Does
it do anything for you? Does it move you, as the kids say? No.
Yeah, it's okay.
What else we got cooking at SB Nation and beyond this week, Mitch?
So I'm actually hitting the road later this weekend. On Friday, I'm going to go to Duke, West Virginia, in the great state of West Virginia. Then on Saturday, I'm going to go see Kentucky play at Marshall. And then on Sunday, I'm going to see Aaliyah Chavez in Oklahoma play at Western Carolina, of all places. So
why did they schedule that one? Like, and the fact that they are traveling there.
It's just, I FOIA'd the contract, and it's just a home and home. It's just a regular old home and home with the Sooners.
I didn't know Jenny was that fond of it's in Asheville, right?
outside of Asheville. It is
Yeah.
in Cullowhee, North Carolina.
Okay, maybe Jenny just wanted a trip to the breweries. I don't know. She's embracing her Iowa.
Yeah. So the Catamounts and the Sooners. There is a casino there, producer Dimitri. Yes.
Jenny Baranchik, obviously, that's the goal. Her and Aaliyah, they want to. Well, actually, no, we don't want to put that on Aaliyah. We're not creating more content. There's already so much content to be had in the world of the women's basketball podcast and the sport of women's basketball. I have my first play-by-play duty of the season this Saturday, Mitch. Men's side, UNF taking on New College of Florida, whoever that is. And then I have a couple of
Fighting DeSantis's.
Yeah, the Fighting DeSantis, well said. And then I have a couple of JU games coming up, including Bethune-Cookman's going to come up the road and by the road, I mean I-95, to play Jacksonville, which is the first time.
Isn't Bethune-Cookman based in like Daytona?
Yes. Or sorry, not Bethune-Cookman. So we have Bethune-Cookman. My apologies. We have Bethune-Cookman coming up I-95, which is based in Daytona. That's not the first time that's happened. Florida International is coming up Thanksgiving week from South Florida to face Jacksonville, which is the first time that's happened in quite some time. So
I believe that is alma mater of producer Dimitri. Yes. Okay. He just said that in the chat. Yeah.
There
it
is.
And also just shout out to Pitbull. Is their basketball arena also named after Pitbull?
I don't know, but once I start my prep, I will alert all the masses and all the listeners of this podcast, because if it is, that's going to be worked into the broadcast. I can assure you of that.
All right. Dale.
Rest assured. Dale, this has been the Women's Basketball Podcast. Our first real episode, because I know we did an episode the day after opening day. Our first real episode of the 25-26 season. If you like what you see, be sure to subscribe, comment, leave a review, maybe even if you're listening to this in podcast form. We appreciate those of you who support the show in whichever way you consume it. Until next week, he's Mitch. I'm Mia saying we will catch you next week.
Deuces.